it for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the fall!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. LaBita.tv. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome on this Wednesday, May 29. I am Marinaro. It is the Sick Podcast. Thank you for watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And once again, as is the case throughout the entire NHL playoffs, with the exception of a couple of days here and there, in all transparency, this podcast was pre-recorded a little bit earlier, and hopefully you will enjoy it. The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America. They are driven to be different. Also brought to you in part by LaBita.tv, a winner of a dozen international awards. LaBita.tv offers quality microbrewery beers made with premium ingredients for everyone's taste. LaBita.tv, embrace your true nature. Also brought to you in part by Playground, and we will give a shout out to Souvlaki Authentique. Souvlaki Authentique is at 1050 Rue Notre Dame in Lachine. Family operated Greek restaurants with 7 locations. Fresh Quebec chicken and pork, hand cut, marinated in-house. Gyro is hand stacked in-house, never frozen, no MSG. Greek potatoes with a unique lemon sauce. Even your yaya would love them. And I will be there tomorrow at 1 p.m. And joining me will be Eric Engels of Sportsnet and Sportsnet.ca. We'll be talking Montreal Canadiens hockey. We will tape the podcast there at 1 p.m. for your pleasure and your enjoyment. If you'd like to come down and have a gyro at the same time, it's an amazing spot. I want to say a special shout out and hello to Costa and Terry. You're going to absolutely love it if you've never been there before. And if you have, I know you're going to be there because people just keep on going back. So we'll tape the podcast there, and then we'll upload it tomorrow night, and you'll be able to watch it at 10 p.m., whether if you were there or if you weren't there. So we very much look forward to that. Once again, another abbreviated edition of the Sick Podcast goes right now, and I bring in Laval Rocket, play-by-play man on BPM Sport. He is one of my favorites in the business. Anthony Marcotte, comment vas-tu, mon chum?
Ça va très bien, mon ami Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing extremely well. And look, the Montreal Canadiens made the news that's been circulating for the last 48 hours official earlier this morning. Let's bring up the Montreal Canadiens tweet. There you have it. At 9:30 a.m., the Laval Rocket have agreed to terms on a multi-year contract extension with head coach Jean-Francois Houle. I'm going to read some of the press release to you and try and get to some of the important parts if we can bring up. Here we go. All right, so John Sedgwick, Laval Rocket general manager, announced that the team has agreed to terms on a multi-year contract extension with head coach Jean-Francois Houle, assistant coach Martin Laperrière, goaltending coach Marco Marciano, and video coach Charles Junot, who have also agreed to multi-year extensions. Jean-Francois Houle has done an excellent job as the head coach of the Laval Rocket since being hired in 2021. He and his staff have demonstrated the ability to balance team performance with player development, establishing both a competitive culture and an ideal environment for growth and maturation of our young players, said Sedgwick. His teams have made 2 playoff appearances in 3 years, including a Calder Cup semifinal appearance in 21-22, and Jean-Francois and his staff have done a commendable job preparing numerous players for the jump to the National Hockey League over that time. All right. Okay. So there you have it. And, Anthony Marcotte, I have you on today because I think you're the most fitting in the entire city, in the entire province, in the country, and in the world to talk about this right now as someone who doesn't work for the Rocket, but covers the team on a day-to-day basis. And I think you knew something because on one of the Rockets' last games of the season, I was in Laval. and I broadcast the Sick Podcast live from there, and you were there, and you were gracious to give me some of your minutes after an entire night, and actually even day of work. And you said to me that, if memory serves me well, I believe you said to me that Jean-Francois Houle would be back. Most of the coaching staff would be back. However, you felt strongly that maybe a member would not be back, and maybe another member would join to replace that person. We'll get to that in a second, but let's get back to Jean-Francois Houle. I don't think you're surprised, are you?
I'm not surprised. What I'm surprised, though, is how long it took to announce a new signing for him for the next 2 or 3 years whatsoever. I didn't see any purpose to why he would coach a full year without a new contract for next year. That surprised me. Because I think JF did a really good job the first 2 years under as a coach for the Laval Rocket, and he was a lame duck all year. They let him coach with a really young team, lots of prospects that he needed to develop, and gave them a lot of ice time. And for some of them, it was a complicated year. But they were so close from a playoff spot, so it was pretty good. But JF ended the season, faced the media for his end-of-season meetings, and didn't have his contract. So most of the questions to him was for his contract, but he didn't know how to answer to them because he didn't have really any discussions with the team at that time. So that was the most surprising thing, because I didn't see any purpose, any reason why he wouldn't be back as a head coach.
Yeah, that's got to be a pretty difficult situation for a coach when his contract is going to expire, let's just say in June or whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're in the month of April, and your contract's going to expire in less than 2 months. You don't know what the future holds usually, and this doesn't happen all the time, but usually your contract situation is settled before then. So you talked about it took some time. I'm curious about this because I thought it took some time too. I mean, let's not forget here, the season ended around middle of April. Now, all of a sudden, we find ourselves at the end of May. Maybe it's because it was never in doubt that it took time. Maybe it's because there needed to be some convincing within the organization. I don't like to speculate, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Why do you think it took the time that it took?
I don't know. I really don't know. It's mesmerizing for me. I haven't scratched the surface in that case yet, but I will. This will be part of the question that I will ask to JF a little later on today, because he's going to have a media availability. I don't understand why it took so long. He should have been given a new contract during the year. They should have announced something in February or March. Why would they let a coach to be a lame duck so long in the season, face the media at the end without any answers to give? I wonder why. But I don't expect to have any answers to it today, but I will someday in the future.
And thank you for specifying that, because once again, so we've made it clear that this podcast was recorded prior to the media availability. So that's probably going to be answered. And there's probably stuff that we're going to find out that, we didn't have in time for the podcast because it came out and filtered out a little bit later. Talk to me about the part of the job that he did that you liked. Did you like the way they played? Did you like the way he managed his bench? Did you like the way he led his troops?
Yeah, I think so. It was unanimous at the end of season meetings. I asked questions to pretty much every player, and it was unanimous. Nobody opened the door about the coaching staff or JF Houle. They appreciated the way he handled the bench, communication as well with the players. And even players that might have something to say about their usage during the season. Sometimes it was a head scratcher about why that player hasn't been playing like he deserved to play. But even those players that could have said something without any contract for next year, so they were pretty much open to say whatever they wanted. But, they unanimously said that JF was a top professional, handled communication well, and when they had question about their usage, they knew where to knock to understand why they haven't been playing like they thought they deserved. So that says a lot of things. Even Nicolas Baudin, who left the team during the season, I talked to him at the end of the year. He played in Czechia at the end of the season, and he left the team because he wasn't playing. Well, he had nothing but good things to say about JF Houle, even though he didn't play a lot. But and sometimes you were scratching your head. Why haven't they played Baudin a little more? Because he played pretty well, producing offensively last year. But this year, he was pretty much the ninth defenseman on the team. But Baudin said really good things about JF. So that tells me a lot about how he handles duties behind the bench and how players want to play for him.
Now, obviously, the fact that he wasn't able to lead his team into the playoffs was not considered a fail because his contract was extended and he was brought back. Having said that, we do know that making the playoffs, albeit not the first mandate for an AHL coach, has to be important to the club because it was specified in the press release, right? He made the playoffs 2 of the 3 years that he was there. Do you think that could be something that probably delayed the announcement of a possible extension, and that they liked the job he was doing, and then all of a sudden they felt with the players that he had at his availability in that last weekend versus Belleville, they should have got in and they didn't, and then all of a sudden maybe they were looking at each other and saying, we're speculating, of course, but I'm asking you.
Well, hopefully when you're making a tough decision about the future of your head coach, you look at what he did, and you look at what you did as an organization to help him coach his team. When you look at the last season for Laval, the main reason why the team missed the playoffs is that they didn't make a move in front of the net earlier on. If they make a move for veteran goaltenders in November, well, probably the team makes the playoffs. Is if they bring in Casimir Kaskisuo at the end of November instead of the end of December, well, it's pretty much it's 6, 7, or 8 more points in the standings, and you make the playoffs. So I think the organization made a couple of mistakes, and how I see the situation going on, maybe they own it, and now they gave the benefit of the doubt to the coach. He did the most that he could with a young team this year, knocking on the door for the playoffs. For sure they missed it, but it was pretty close, right down to the wire.
Obviously, the Caden Primo situation hurt Jean-Francois Houle and the Rockets' chances of making the playoffs. He who was with the big team, with the Montreal Canadiens for the entire season, and they had a 3-goalie system going all the way up until trade deadline day. And of course, on trade deadline day, Jake Allen was then traded to the New Jersey Devils. But then again, these things happen. All right, okay. A shout out to our partner and sponsor, Playground. Experience Playground like never before. Enjoy world-class poker, 900 plus gaming machines, weekly events, karaoke Mondays, comedy Wednesdays, live bands on Fridays and Saturdays, and much more. Discover their latest additions: the ETC Steakhouse, etc. Steakhouse, Drunken Dragons Exquisite Sushi, the Esperanto Cigar Lounge, and Babel Lounges, Mezza, and Cocktails. Playground is your ultimate destination for entertainment. Just over the Mercier Bridge. Visit playground.ca for details. All right, okay. Is there, and this is a tough question. It's a tough question, but you're a big boy, and I'm going to ask it to you anyway. I know you said there were some players that were scratching their heads as to why they weren't playing or they had a lack of ice time, and maybe you as a member of the media were probably doing the same. Is there a situation or two where he probably didn't manage it to the best of his ability, but you believe it will be a great learning moment for Jean-Francois Houle, or that he did learn from it already?
Well, like you said, it's a tough question. When you make a move, sometimes you always look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, did I make the right decision? And one of those decisions that he took earlier at the end of the season is playing Mitch Stevens centering the third line as a shutdown centerman. But the team was struggling offensively to score goals at that time. So one of the main purpose in hockey is you need to score a goal, one more goal than your opponent, right? I understand the purpose of a shutdown line. I thought at the time that it was a good idea. But last year, Mitch Stevens pretty much carried the team with Pierrick Dubé for a playoff spot. And JF even told me, well, did I make the right move to put him centering my third line? If I could have played him on the top six, maybe on the wing, and help like the team score more goals. So you can tell that JF can look at himself and always ask questions about, did I handle things the best that I could?
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing for a coach to always think about those decisions. So it's only an example of what can be happening behind the door.
Anthony, I've lost you for a second here. I don't know what happened here. Are you there? I've lost you for a second. Okay, it's okay. You know,
I'm back.
You're back. Okay, fantastic. Yep. Listen, that's a great point and a great observation. I'm going to tell you this. You know what really looks good on JF Houle today? As we know, he was not a hire of the Gordon Hughes administration. He was hired before they got there, before Marty St. Louis got there. And in many organizations, GMs are looking for an opportunity to bring their own people in, to bring their own coach in. And this could have been an opportunity for Kent Hughes. And I know that John Sedgwick is the general manager, of course, for the Laval Rocket, but it would have been a great opportunity for the entire Canadiens management team to bring in, somebody else, somebody that Gorton knows, somebody that Hughes knows. And they didn't do that. And Lord knows, I would imagine they know a lot of people. And I would imagine they have respect for a lot of people in hockey. And I would imagine the way they found Marty St. Louis, they have somebody else in mind that they think is somewhat like Marty. For them to bring JF Houle back, I think gives you a pretty good idea of, how highly they think of the work that he did.
I think so. And now there's the question that Houle is not Gorton and Hughes guy. Well, it's not a question anymore.
No,
now he's their guy for the next 3 years.
Yeah. I'll tell you who's not their guy is Kelly Buchberger, who left about a week and a half ago and went to coach in Alberta and be a GM there. When you joined me, like I said, near the end of the season with a couple of games left in the American Hockey League season, in Laval from the arena, you said to me that you thought there would be a change to the coaching staff and with one of the assistants. And look at that, one of the assistants left. Can you tell me why you had that feeling?
Well, I had the feeling since last year, actually, because I knew that Kelly was looking for his opportunities in the Western League for a head coach position and even an assistant coach because he wanted to go back to his family. He honored the third year of his contract, but everybody knew inside the organization that it was the end of the line for Kelly Buchberger. I didn't tell it publicly, but I knew the situation about him, so it was not really a surprise for anyone when Kelly accepted a job offer in Alberta. Good for him. Now, I think the guy that will be in his place next year will be fascinating because what do they want? Do they want an assistant coach that wants to be an assistant coach? Or do they want to develop a new head coach, a future head coach? That's going to be fascinating. It looks to be a defenseman coach that they will hire, but will they maybe broach the possibility of moving Martin Laperrière to be the defenseman coach like he was with the Quebec Remparts? That could happen. And then you can bring in a QMJHL head coach currently in service to maybe help him develop as a future head coach for your farm team or even in the NHL. They developed Alex Burrows. He was with Joël Bouchard for a year and a half, and then he got the call in the NHL. So that's going to be fun to see. What kind of guy do they want to see in that situation as an assistant coach?
The last time, or one of the last times that we spoke, you brought up a name that I thought was extremely interesting because I didn't know that he was interested in getting into coaching. And maybe you know something, maybe you don't. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. You brought up Paul Byron's name. I had a chance to see Paul Byron a couple of months ago. Of course, he works in player development with the Montreal Canadiens. He seems to be enjoying his role immensely, working with some of the prospects in the organization. He brought up Owen Beck as one of the names to me that he was working with. Why did you bring up Paul Byron's name then as a possible assistant coach? And do you still feel today that he could be a prime candidate?
I stand by my course. I really think that if Paul Byron wants the job, he's the guy that will get it. I really think so. But I really don't know if he wants to coach right now. Does he see himself as a coach in the near future, or is he comfortable in the situation that he's in right now, just like Francis Bouillon? I know Francis could have got the opportunity to be at least an assistant coach in Laval, but he prefers to be in development situation. That's the role that he prefers.
Correct.
Maybe Paul Byron is exactly the same situation. I really don't know. But he's going to be in the discussions. If he wants the job, well, they will look at him for sure for that job. But there will be a strong list of candidates. I think the Laval Rocket is in a good situation for a lot of coaches right now. Will they try to hire an English-speaking guy just like Kelly Buchberger was for that role? It could be. I think it's an important situation too. But there's a lot of candidates in the junior ranks right now that will take a look really seriously about that job opening in Laval.
When you start taking the buses for those long trips, of course, man, you really love coaching. It's because it's something that you want to do for a long time. It's because you have aspirations to obviously coach at a higher level. Yeah. And so, listen, we'll see. It'll be very, very interesting. The makeup of this team, I know it's still very early. Here we are at the end of May, and there's a bunch of players that are going to be at pro camp, and we'll see how it plays out. But you had a chance to see Logan Mailloux all of last season, and he came up and he played the final game with the Montreal Canadiens. And I think it was Francis Bouillon who said on La Poche Bleue that of all players with the Rocket, prospects in the organization, the one that Francis felt was closest to making the jump to the National Hockey League was Mailloux. That said, in your opinion, and I know there's still a training camp to go here and there's a lot that can happen, will Mailloux start this season with the Rocket?
Well, I agree with what Francis said. He's right. I think he's the guy that made the biggest jump through the season in Laval. An excellent offensive season. Really improved his play defensively as well. He was really steady out there. He was the main guy, the number one defenseman almost all year. He was able to get more ice time than anyone thought about him at the beginning of the year. Mm-hmm. He's in a good place right now, for sure. They will take a strong look about his assets during training camp. I wouldn't say that he has a place to lose at training camp because he still have options to go in the AHL without going through waivers. I know it's not really sexy to say this, but it's always part of the discussion when you go through training camp, when you have tough decisions to make and you need depth to go through an 82-game schedule. So you need to juggle your depth right from the beginning. So that might cost Mailloux a spot right from the beginning, but I expect him to at least end the season in Montreal and be it might even be a top four defenseman along the way during the season. So I think, yeah, he's exactly right. I see the same thing in Logan Mailloux's play.
So in JF Houle's ideal world, it's a little bit of a trick question here, but in JF Houle's ideal world, who are his top six at forward and his top four on defense if his season would start tomorrow?
Well, if we had JF on the podcast right now, I don't think he would be able to answer your question because you can expect a few veteran signings in the organization to play in Laval.
Yes.
Just like it was this year with Elias Anderson and Philippe Maillet, who were top six forwards in Laval. They played there almost all year when they were healthy. And defensively, the signing of Toby Paquette-Bisson was really important, and he played on the top 4 all year or most of the year. So, but young players will have important roles to play for sure, but it's tough to tell. I got to wait until at least July 3rd to answer that question. It's too tough to tell right now.
Well, yeah, I'm going to answer my own question, right? In JF Houle's ideal world, Joshua Roy would be on his top line, but I think we saw enough good performances from Joshua to think that he's going to start the season with the Montreal Canadiens, right?
Well, that's the biggest difference between Roy and Maillout's cases. I think Roy, because of the depth offensively, he really has a place to lose at training camp. Just like Justin Barron had last year. He had a place to lose. He made the team, but he was on shaky ground during the first part of the season and the end of the season in Laval. Joshua Roy doesn't want the same situation to happen to him. He's got to be ready for training camp. I think he has a top 9 role for him on the table right now. He just needs to perform.
Is Joshua Roy the guy that if I asked you for one player that you thought really benefited from the development that he got under JF Houle and the coaching staff with the Laval Rocket in order to make the jump to the National Hockey League, would that be the guy that you think the best work was done with, or can you name me others?
Well, he's a strong name for sure. I think Alex Belzil last year is another one that I can add to the list. Josh is clearly one of them. JF played them in important situations. I think Josh was an improved player when he got called up. He was ready to make the jump, and he played pretty well when he was in Montreal. Does he still have some marinating to do? Probably, but there's not a lot of options offensively. If you don't go on free agency and sign a couple of forwards, I don't see how Josh is not in that lineup to begin the year.
Talk to me about player development. We know that Adam Nicholas is very prevalent, of course, within the Canadiens organization and with players from the Laval Rocket as well. We saw Dr. Schott. They've had us, they have a team of specialists that come in and spend a lot of time. For those who haven't attended a lot of Laval Rocket practices, I know you have. Is there a lot of extra time with players? Is there a lot of extra time with some of these specialists within the organization, with Adam Nicholas, with Dr. Schott, with Paul Byron, with, the list goes on and on?
Yeah, well, when you take a look at the AHL schedule, it happens 5 or 6 times a year when you don't have games in the middle of the week. And you played like 2 home games on the weekend. So you have 3 or 4 practices during the week. And when it happens, you have a development kind of practice session where the actual Laval Rocket coaches takes the sidelines, and it's Adam Nicholas and Scott Pellerin and Paul Byron that will handle the duties, and they're working on individual abilities. It's not really a practices. And for us media members, well, you can see how they work on stuff, but you don't see any lines. You don't see any combinations out there. You don't see power plays. So it doesn't bring you a lot as a media members to watch those practices because you can tell what's going to happen for the next day or next night when the team will be playing. But I think it's important. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing the same thing with their development. We're in a new era for sure. That didn't happen a couple of years ago when the team was playing in Hamilton or St. John's. But now the proximity with the big team clearly helps the organization, and I think it's a really good thing. And you can tell that JF appreciates sometimes having a practice where you just take your place on the sidelines and watch how the development team is working with their athletes.
I asked Pierre Maguire the question the other day. What an amazing answer he gave me, by the way. And the question was, should the Canadiens be preparing either Jean-Francois Houle, and if it's not him, should they put someone in there as an assistant coach that they can prepare to make the jump to the big team one day and possibly even take over for Marty St. Louis once St. Louis is no longer going to be the coach of the Montreal Canadiens? And of course, every organization has a different school of thought on this. Some have done it before in the past where they groomed their American Hockey League coach. Example, the Syracuse Crunch with John Cooper, and he's been the Tampa Bay Lightning coach for the longest time. Other organizations have done it as well. Others have not. Pierre said, what you need to do is prepare your succession plan. And you put down a list of maybe 5 candidates that you think could be the next one. And those candidates, obviously, that list can change along the way. And if your American Hockey League coach is one of those candidates, well, you have to give him a head start and put him at number 1 and then see how it plays out, right? If I would have asked you 2 months ago, do you think Jean-Francois Houle can be the next coach of the Montreal Canadiens after Marty St. Louis? I would imagine your answer would have differed from what it would be today, because now we know today he got the vote of confidence. So do you think he is the succession plan one day? And look, Marty St. Louis signed the contract extension, and Lord, everyone wants Marty to be here for as long as possible. We have a feeling that he probably will be. Do you think if Jean-Francois Houle could be part of that succession plan? And whether yes or whether no, would you put an assistant coach who probably can be part of that succession plan? And if so, do you have a name?
Well, it's a good question. I think JF fits the profile as an associate coach and not really a head coach in the NHL. I could be wrong, but I think his profile for the NHL is that of an assistant coach. And I think someday he will get his opportunity for that. If it's not in Montreal, it can be elsewhere. That's why I think the organization is in the right place right now to bring in a young and future head coach in the organization to offer him that spot on the coaching staff as an assistant coach in Laval. We have a couple of good names right now.
Oh, yeah?
They named you Sylvain Favreau in Drummondville. They need to get him in an interview and at least talk to him about that possibility. You are Sylvain Favreau, and you need to listen to what the Montreal Canadiens can offer you. Another name that could be interesting for the team is Carl Mallette in Victoriaville. I think Carl Mallette is a strong candidate. He's a proven winner, former President's Cup champion as a hockey player, as a captain, and he won the Cup Invicto as well as a coach. He's a power play specialist as well, so that can help maybe his things to get the job as an assistant coach. There's more coaches. Gilles Bouchard is another one in Sherbrooke. He already has the experience as assistant coach at Syracuse. He came back in junior, and he made he did a tremendous job this year in Sherbrooke with a team that nobody saw even qualifying for the playoffs. And they gave Drummondville trouble in the second round of the playoffs. So there's a lot of candidates. But if I was in position to make a move and offer a job to someone, it might be those 3 candidates. But there are a few more, and I heard a couple of other names: Jason Pominville and Jason Demers as well as an assistant coach.
There you have it. All right. Okay. Former NHLers.
Yep.
They got chez nous aussi. Listen, I told everyone that Anthony Marcotte knows the Laval Rocket like the back of his hand. All right. I told them. I'm just actually, is that the back of your hand or is that the front? Anyway, he knows it like the back of his hand. And he obviously knows everything there is to know about Quebec hockey and coaches in the game and players in the game. And you had a chance to see and hear for yourself. Anthony, you are the play-by-play man covering Laval Rocket on BPM Sports. You are absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you taking the time. Merci beaucoup, mon ami.
Ça m'a fait plaisir. Thanks for your time, and let's do this a little later on, because I think after July 1st, I might be able to answer one of your questions.
Oh, there's a tease. We look forward to it. We'll talk to you soon. All right. And thank you. And once again, this podcast was pre-recorded prior to JF Houle's availability with the media. So maybe we talked about something that came up a little bit later on. But there you have it, Anthony Marcotte. Special thanks to Energy Transportation Group. Special thanks to Labita TV. Special thanks to Playground. And special thanks to Shane Gaumont at Master Control. Marinaro, before I bid you good night, once again, tomorrow, drop by and see me. If you've always wanted to meet, well, here's your opportunity. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to talk sports with you. And of course, I'd love to talk Montreal Canadiens hockey with you. Tomorrow, I will be at Souvlaki Authentique at 1050 Rue Notre Dame in Lachine. And I'm going to be broadcasting the Sick Podcast along with Eric Engels of Sportsnet at sportsnet.ca, and then we'll upload it tomorrow night. You'll have a chance to see it at 10 p.m. Stop by for a Euro. Say hello to Costa and Terry. What a great spot they have. I can't wait to go there tomorrow. I might even show up with my Vespa. Until then, once again, Shane Gamo, special thanks to all of you watching and listening. If you like it, share it with your friends, comment, S-I-C-K, leave a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. I'm Marinaro. Boom.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVie.tv, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.